So here is how we're going to learn hanja through the next series of hopefully hundreds of videos, and it will be one test level at a time, because you might decide that you want to challenge yourself and take one of these hanja tests, and they're kind of funny because when you take them, you'll be taking them in a room full of kids, because if you're let's say you're starting at a low level and maybe you got up to level 6, you'll probably be taking it with like a bunch of 5th graders, which will be kind of fun on the day. And if you get all the way up to level 1 and special level 1, I've got level 2 myself. When you get up to that level, then you start to see adults around you, but for the lower levels it's all kids. And by the way, I learned Japanese before Korean, so that was my first exposure to hanja through kanji. So I'll talk about stroke order in just a second. But first, let's get into what is kind of unfortunate when you're learning hanja in Korean, which is that they have these sometimes you'll have these archaic terms for the meaning. So when you look up a hanja character in Korean, it tells you the meaning and then the pronunciation every time. So meaning, pronunciation, and most of the time it's fine. Like hakgyokyo, that's fine. Karuchugyo, that's fine, no problem. But then you have like this, like omi mo, and omi, it's nobody says omi now. It's omma. So this should, and other books will say omma mo. And I think it does in Naver, so let's just look it up here. Yeah, there you go, omonimo, which is way better. So it's if you might pick up one of these books and it'll have these weird unused words. There's another one, mue. So this should honestly, this should just be san. Like calling it me-san is there you go, me. It even has an explanation for what me means, because Koreans don't call mountains me. Ye sarapke iren and mar. So it's like a quaint or poetic way of saying mountain. So when you pick up a hanja book, you'll have all these sometimes these old terms. This one here, like auje, this should be hyongjeje. Like here's hyong, that's fine. And this should also be hyongjeje, I think, but because they have these old terms still there, it's definitely one of the downsides of learning hanja here. So there you go, au. I wonder if cadet, man's younger brother. But nobody uses this word. Nobody calls you an au. I've never heard that word before in conversation. So that is one of the unfortunate things. The other thing to watch out for is right here. Sometimes you have this this is like a long versus short vowel distinction, and that's only important for, like, most Koreans don't know about that. It's only important for like newscasters. Like, you have a word like hyokwa, and technically it should be pronounced hyogwa, and so announcers, they kind of relearn a lot of their pronunciation so they can get it just right. So that's why you'll hear like hyogwa chogoro, but nobody says that in real life. They say hyokwa. So there's a lot of stuff like that, which includes these long and short sounds. And I think in the higher levels, at least a long time ago, was it like 20 years ago when I took level 2, and there was I think it was in the next level, you actually have to remember this, but this is pretty much useless right here. So don't worry about these marks here. If you pick up a hanja book and you see these long and short marks, just basically ignore them. So that is 2 things to watch out for. And then one other thing, which is just a personal note, stroke order. So if you have something like this, so kusur, and that's like a gem or a jewel. So if you click on the character here in Naver and many other sites, you can see the stroke order, and you can see here, you can pull up an image and you can see it goes across, down, across, and then you have that little tick at the end. However, when I do this, I have different muscle memory, which is across, down, across, across, and then the tick. And that is because that's the Japanese stroke order. And I'll just pull this up in Wiktionary to show you. I think Wiktionary has both stroke orders there. It's either in the English one or, let's see. So you can see for every language here it has a slightly different stroke order. So for Japanese here, where is the stroke order? There you go. Stroke order, Japan, Chinese, and Korea, here they use the Chinese stroke order. So you can see it's a little bit different. And that is not a huge deal. There's like very small differences between stroke order, and it's kind of like writing a T like this, across and down versus like down and across. But they're universal stroke orders. Like if you were writing, for example, what happened there? If you're writing this character, all right, this is getting weird. There you go. So if you're writing this character, for example, at the very end, you always finish the enclosure like that. So that's a stroke order that everybody follows. When you have an enclosure, you start. All right, it's just getting using Figma for the first time today for this. So when you have like this mouth or enclosure looking thing, you have one stroke down. The next stroke is across and down, and that's a single stroke. And then you do your thing inside, and then finally at the very end, you finish it off. So that is going from like, you know, top to bottom and left to right. That's universal. You know, finishing off these enclosures at the very end, that's also universal. So it's kind of similar to, like, you'll never see anybody do this. Like, I don't even know if I have the muscle memory to do this. Like, if you try to do it backwards, it's really awkward. Like that. Like, nobody will ever write a hanja like this. So don't worry about that. So the differences are always going to be very small, and you can kind of compare it to like if you take the letter Q, nobody does that, right? As far as I know. Or what's another letter? Let's write hello and see. Not hello, what's a better word? Interesting. Interesting. So that last part. So with so people will never write E like this, as far as S, nobody will ever do this. T, you might see some variation. I, maybe some variation there. People never write N's like this, and people never write G's like this, unless they're really, really unique. So that's a pretty similar analogy to stroke order. So everybody's always going to do this. And then the only difference is in Japan and China, you'll see this stroke first, but in Japan you'll see that stroke first. So in some characters you'll see a somewhat different stroke order, and that's because of the Japanese muscle memory. And I think that's fine, because you don't want to relearn muscle memory, because that just as you saw with the characters I tried to draw backwards, if you try to do that, it's just really awkward, and it's best to stick with the muscle memory you have. So if you see a slightly different stroke order, that's because of the muscle memory, and don't worry about that. So starting in the next video, we're going to learn 5 at a time, and so it's going to be starting with level 8, which is what all the children take, and there's only 50 of them, so that's just 10 videos, and I'm going with 5 at a time because I learned 5 at a time myself, 5 per day, and that's a nice way to do it.